stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. Start out by thanking Eric McCurdy from the Twitter and TP Noni, also known as Deb, from the BTR chat rooms for kind comments about the last show, and want to include also Patricia for USA from the Twitter for the same. If you can have only one patriot, have yourself a Patricia for USA. Her patriotism comes with the kind of fire that could singe the hair off a camel. Patricia also has a program called Not Politically Correct with Tricia, which is on Blog Talk Radio. Just go to the Blog Talk Radio main page and find it through the search window. It is definitely worth a listen. Main story for this show was brought to my attention via Leopard Woman, the Unpleasant Blind Guy Angel, and it concerns a suggestion for how to deal, at least partially, with the crisis that we find ourselves in after it was discovered that many of our war veterans have not been properly treated or indeed treated at all through our Veterans Administration medical facilities. What I'm going to play for you is a suggestion made by what is known or was known in the United States military as a Mustang. A Mustang is not a horse or a car. It is someone who began their military career in the enlisted ranks and worked their way up into officer status.
Everybody who hears my voice, you can tweet me at Montel_Williams and use hashtag VA Surge. Neil, you know this. 4 years ago, this government did a surge in Afghanistan. We put 33,000 troops on the ground in less than 90 days. Cost the taxpayers of America over $50 billion. We did it. It was assessed and needed to be done. We got the assessment finished in 20 days. I'm here to tell you that right now there's a budget going before Congress and Senate. We know that there's over $3 billion of waste in there right now that no one wants. There's an aircraft carrier, there's A-10s, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't want. Take $1 billion out of that right now, just add that to last year's military budget, and without any congressional orders, without a presidential signature, each branch of the service can put on temporary active duty any corpsman that just went off active duty because their service was over. Bring them back. Let's surge for the next 90 days, clear the entire backlog of appointments that have been missed. Understand what we need to do, because there are soldiers who haven't seen doctors for 3 years. We don't even know the level of illness they have now.
But Montel,
so
would you
don't even know how much we got to pay.
I'm sorry, my friend, but would you be nervous about giving the VA even more money if it has a record of losing it or not accounting for it or looking after the soldiers you're trying to look after? Maybe the VA itself isn't up to that job.
We'll put the money into the account of the military so just we can pay for the salaries of the soldiers that we can bring back on. You know, I spent 22 years in, and let me explain my service so everybody understands. I'm a Vietnam-era vet. I came in on a delayed entry program in 1973, went through boot camp in 74, was a Marine, got meritoriously promoted 3 times, entered the Naval Academy, went to the Naval Academy from 76 to 1980, then I served from 80 to 1989, active duty from 1989 until 1991, 92, I did something called TEMAC. Temporary active duty. They were able to bring me back on active duty for 30-day, 20-day periods of time. That's part of the budget. When there's something or a crisis that needs to be done, they have it in the budget to do that. I'm saying give the budget to the military. So
I see your point. There's obviously, if we were good at surges in the military to go after bad guys, we should be up to surges that help these guys. But I think you had noticed or commented in a recent column you wrote that we're generally forgetting our soldiers these days, those who've been injured and those who've long since left service. And you notice it just in the celebrities who go to hospitals to visit them.
Not just celebrities, Neil, but
anyone.
Do you think about this? 4 years ago, 5 years ago, every award show, I don't care if it was the Grammys, the Emmys, the whatever, people stood up and said, I want to thank God and I want to thank all of our soldiers. It rolled off our lips like, like a saying, I support the troops, I support the troops. Well, 4 years ago when I was visiting soldiers at Walter Reed, I saw lots of people walking through the hallways. There were other celebrities there. 3 years ago, there was maybe 3 or 4. You see a couple congressmen there. 2 years ago, the numbers started going down. And in the last year, I talked to the guys myself, and they say nobody's visiting us anymore.
Do you think it's battle fatigue? Do you think that maybe the president, that's part of what he was talking about at West Point? We're just tired of wars and battles, and we might be taking it out on these guys.
Yeah, but guess what? Be as tired as you want, but that barbecue you had on Sunday was paid for on the backs of soldiers who left body parts in the
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
So you have no right to forget. This is not a debt that we can say, oh, I'm not going to pay for a school lunch program. Oh, I'm not going to add more money to the FAA. No, no, no. Excuse me. This is the reason why we have a democracy. And until people really come together and get to this, we're really going to have a hard time, because guess what? At the same time we're having this conversation, there are people mongering in the hallways of Congress getting ready to put troops on the ground in Syria, troops on the ground in Africa, troops on the ground in the Ukraine. Well, tell me who's going to go down and sign up and enlist today when they know that the government that they're enlisting to protect is doing nothing but lying, because when you come home, they will throw you, I hate to say it this way, it's as ignorant, as distasteful as giving me the, the middle finger, because that's what you're doing to the soldiers. We've got to stop this.
Do soldiers tell you that?
It's not political.
Do soldiers tell you that when they see you, like, hey, come on, what was this for?
Brother, let me tell you, talk to on a regular basis, people who've left more of their bodies and more of parts of them overseas. Their souls are still here, but they just wonder why. Why? 4 years ago, people bought them lunch in the airport. Now they just kind of look at them as they pass by and kind of wink. And I'm not telling you to go buy them something. They just want to know that you appreciate the fact that the reason why we and you didn't have to send your children to do this is because they did it for you. And the only reason why this is happening, I'm going to say this, and I hope people get really angry at me when I say this. The only reason why this happens is because if we look at our Congress and our Senate today, we have less than 20% of them who served, who put a uniform on. And I believe the figure is less than 40% of them have had children who have served. So therefore, they are easy and quick to send someone else's child off to die, and they should be just as quick to protect them when they come home.
What kind of reaction do you get when you say this, when you spoke to that crowd?
At the crowd, those guys went nuts. I mean, they were extremely happy that I even came to see them. The reaction I'm getting right now, people, I'm really kind of blown away that people are angry at me because I'm just trying to tell you that democracies don't stand when you can't man an army, and you can't man an army if you lie to those who want to protect you. So I have people tweeting me saying, how dare you even talk to Glenn Beck about this? Why would you talk to Glenn Beck? Well, guess what? Do you know what, Neil? I put out my op-ed piece. Glenn Beck was the only person who picked it up. I couldn't get traction in the New York Times, Post, because, you don't want to hear me on this issue, I guess.
Yeah, this is not a right or left issue.
Now, for those of you who, like I, thought that Montel Williams was simply a talk show host, his status as a Mustang in the United States military might have come as a surprise. I will be posting a webpage on Mr. Williams' military service, along with the entire version of the partial interview that you just heard, and this show's Awesome American Story as well, at UBG Contact on the Twitter. That's where you can get hold of me with comments, questions, Awesome American suggestions. It is the main contact point for this show. We'll say that I like what Mr. Williams wants to do for our veterans, and believe that it is something that we could repeat as necessary until we could find some means of fixing this system. The only place where we disagree is in where the money should come from. I believe that we should strip any and all federal money going to welfare for illegal aliens and going for foreign aid to Islamic countries and funnel that into a program such as the surge that Mr. Williams is speaking of. Let's get that money out of the hands of criminals and terrorists and put it to work serving those who are the best of us, not the least of us. And speaking of the best of us, that brings me to this show's Awesome American. And this Awesome American is via Sue from New Mexico, who I hope is coming home today after surgery, and pray that Sue is doing well. Now, we do not have a name for this Awesome American. I'm just calling them a Good Samaritan from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And what I'm going to read comes in a story by Oliver Darcy of The Blaze, which was posted on May the 18th. Headline: He was driving down the road when something caught his eye that he could not ignore. A Michigan man was driving down the road this week when he spotted something, and he couldn't look away. Within minutes, he was on the phone with his wife. "I'm bringing home 7 baby ducks," he told her. "Hop online and figure out how to keep them alive." The man, who posted his story to online community website Reddit, said he was headed home from a Grand Rapids mall when a group of baby ducks who had huddled near a garage for warmth caught his eye. Their mother was nearby, dead. "I passed them on the other side of the road and had a split-second thought of, just ignore them. Ducks die all the time. But I couldn't do it," he wrote. The man collected 7 of the ducks. 2, he says, ran away and could not be found, and put them in a box to take home. His family purchased a heat lamp and other supplies to take care of the ducks until they could come up with a permanent solution. 1 tiny duck hotel with a heat lamp. Check. I cleared a space in the corner of our garage, and it was time for them to move in, he wrote, posting pictures of the baby ducks' new home online. The Michigan man later updated Reddit, saying he had tracked down a local licensed wildlife rehab organization that was glad to take them in until they could be released back into the wild. For his decision to stop and do something instead of simply driving on and ignoring the problem, this Good Samaritan is this show's Awesome American. And that, in a larger way, is what this entire show is about. Are we going to continue to look away and figure that it's the politicians' problem to take care of our veterans, or that it's the problem of celebrities? Well, it's obvious that that isn't working. We have to get behind our veterans and stay behind them. Many of us have suspected that the sudden passion to support our troops was simply being treated as the fashion du jour in the entertainment industry, and it does not surprise us that the interest of self-centered celebrities has fallen off, as Montel Williams described. So it is up to each of us to do what we can in our own way to pick up the slack and to show these individuals that awesome Americans of all walks of life care enough to divert ourselves from our daily lives and lend assistance where we can, be it to our brave war fighters or some orphaned baby ducks. That's it this time. I appreciate each and every one of you who listen. Thank you, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.